Well, it's July 21st, 2017. It's hot, muggy, and miserable. I could think of better things I could do than working on this boat, but I figure if we can get out on the water, maybe we can actually enjoy the rest of the weekend. So, trying to get this going. First and foremost, I got to give a shout out to one of my avid viewers. My friend had just come by here because his son, Alec, is a viewer of my channel, and he's really enjoying the Tower of Power series. So he wanted to come and see it in all its glory, so to speak. So, Alec, hello. All right. So I finally found a nut with fine thread that fits on here. So I've got the linkage reattached. I tightened up the tilt tube nuts that I had undone for quite a while. That's ready to go. As far as the lower unit, so there's a really long bolt that goes down through the back of the lower unit over here and actually goes into a part that covers a round hole underneath here that you can't see, that has a little fin on it, and that's called a trim tab. And that does a couple of things. One of the things it does is it acts as a sacrificial anode to help stem corrosion, especially in salt water. The other thing that it does is the small fin that's on it, it's actually made in a way so that you can loosen the bolt and rotate it to whatever position you need. And what it does is it helps compensate for the tendency of the motor to want to steer to one side from the action of the prop running. So in other words, if we're looking at this prop's going to rotate clockwise normally, and in the process of pushing the water back, it's also actually pushing to the side, which is going to make the motor want to turn this way. So you're going to, without the presence of this trim tab, you're going to constantly be fighting that. Now, if you have a hydraulic steering system, it's not going to make a difference. But with a mechanical system like mine, I'm going to end up feeling, with this missing, I'm going to end up feeling it trying to push the steering to one side. So I do want to eventually replace that. So I started to look around to see if I could find out what the heck I did with the thing. And then it occurred to me that this may have been missing from the beginning. So I went back and looked at way back in like part 4 or part 5 of this long series, and realized that I talk about, when I go to take this lower unit off for the first time, I talk about that there was a bolt here that's already missing. So I know that when I bought the boat, this was already off. I do remember that I did find some hardware in the boat buried in the leaves and everything as we were cleaning. I can't remember whether or not I found the trim tab or not, but I read online to try and find out whether or not it was okay to run it with the trim tab off. And once people explained what it does, they basically said, yeah, you can run it with it off, but you should have one on there. But for the time being, you could run it with it missing. And furthermore, they said that it's a very common thing for these to go missing, that they tend to fall off on a lot of people. And depending on, I guess, the manufacturer, there may be certain ways that you're supposed to treat that. One guy said that you're supposed to use red Loctite to hold those on. Now, red Loctite, for those who aren't aware, red Loctite is the strongest Loctite, and it's a Loctite that once you use it on the threads, you need to use heat to break it free again. So I'm not crazy about the idea of using red Loctite on there, but I'll cross that bridge when I come to it, because I'm going to have to find a replacement bolt and trim tab for this. But it's not going to stop me from possibly getting this on the water this weekend. So we're going to soldier on without that. So after I tightened up this linkage, the next thing I noticed was I just tested the steering from lock to lock, and what I noticed was that it's willing to steer in one direction a lot further than the other direction. So I want to correct that situation. So I'll demonstrate that now. So if I turn this until I can't turn it anymore, it stops there. All right, my son Aiden's going to assist me. So I would say that if we say that straight ahead is 12 o'clock and the back of the motor would be pointing, when the front's at 12 and the back's pointing at 6, I would say the back of the motor right now is probably pointing at around 4 o'clock. if I'm looking facing down on the ground, if I'm looking at a clock, I'd say I'm at 4 o'clock. All right, Aiden, go ahead and turn the steering wheel the other way. All right, stop there. Go back a little bit. Go back a little more, a little more, a little more. All right, right there would be about 6 o'clock. All right, now go back, go the way you were going to start. Keep going that way. Keep going. It stops. Don't force it. So it stops right there, and that's at maybe 7 o'clock, and maybe not even 7 o'clock, maybe even 6:30. So you can see there's a big difference. So go ahead and run it all the way over the other way. Okay. Pull this up a little bit. Try a little more. As far as it goes?
Yeah.
All right. So go ahead and go back the other way again. Stop. All right. So the way I'm going to try and adjust this problem is right in here you can see that clamp that clamps this tube. If I loosen this clamp, I can actually move this tube in or out as necessary. And actually, I think I've got that actually too far out right now, because I think this was actually covered by the clamp before and it isn't now. So let's see, if I did that, that would definitely explain. Yeah, that might be it right there. I think I'm just going to loosen that clamp and we'll move this over a little bit and then retighten the clamp and see what happens. Not exactly my Sunday best. Cut off pair of Dickies, flip-flops. Oh, now that's genuinely annoying.
What?
That 7/16ths and both of my 7/16 sockets are missing, which means I forgot to put them back on the other night. Which means I have to crawl underneath here. Going through the trouble of crawling underneath here. I gotta go back downstairs. These are actually still loose. I never really retightened them. All right, Aiden, try turning the steering wheel a little bit. Just a little bit. Try to turn it again. No. Try to turn it the other way. All right. No. There we go. Okay. All right. Try and turn it one way, the other way. Stop. All right. Listen.
What?
Turn it all the way in one direction, but don't force it. What are you doing?
Turning.
All right, go back the other way. Stop, stop, stop.
What? What?
The motor must be digging into the ground too much. Shouldn't be putting that much pressure on the it shouldn't be putting that much pressure on the clamp. All right, I moved this over some, but not far enough. So I think what I got to do now is I'm going to loosen the clamp, and I'm going to have Aiden twist the motor over so that this part right here is up against that edge there. So look, do you see how this? See how there's a line right there, kind of where the corrosion changes?
Yes, I see it.
I'm gonna make sure you see. See that line right there?
Yeah.
See the sleeve? See how this sleeve is sticking out a little bit?
Yeah.
I don't want that sleeve sticking out a little bit. I want it flush with the edge of this, okay? But then I also want this tube to go into that sleeve, okay? So, more than anything, when I tell you to, you're gonna turn this whole motor. You're gonna grab it here, you're gonna turn it like this, okay? you're gonna twist it like this. When you twist it, okay, you see how that's moving? See how it's moving?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's gonna happen is I'm gonna loosen this clamp up so that when you twist this, what's gonna happen is that this part right here is gonna go into there. Okay? And then I might have to tap this metal sleeve back over to here. Okay. So look, just remember this. This is gonna go towards the road. This is gonna go towards the road.
Okay.
You okay?
I said okay.
Okay. All right, go ahead and do it. Stop. Okay, that's good. Hold on. All right, I'm not going to torque them down completely just yet because I want to check the steering.
I'll do that. Okay.
Well, yeah, you can, but we're going to see how it's gonna go. Go ahead.
Which way?
Turn it either way you want because it's kind of in the middle now. Well, no, it's all the way over that way, right?
Yeah.
Oops. All the way over that way
Yeah.
towards the. All right.
I'm gonna get in.
Is that all one direction you're doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's that direction. Okay.
Yeah. Go all the way back the other way.
That's the other direction.
All right. All right, now I repositioned the camera right in the center, looking towards the stern of the boat. And let's see. So that's turned all the way to one direction?
Okay. Now it is.
Now it is? All right, now go the other way. That still seems like it's not pulling the other way far enough. There's actually a little line right there on the center of the tube, and if I line this up, it actually looks like it corresponds to here on this handle. So the other limit should be here. Go the other direction. That's like center right there. That doesn't seem like it's going over far enough yet. I think the other thing I could do is I could actually mark the steering wheel with a piece of tape and then figure out the limits from lock to lock, how many revolutions it makes. Set the steering wheel at exactly the halfway point, and then set the motor, align the motor so that it's right in the middle when that occurs, right? Does that make sense? I'll try that. All right, so I made a mark on the steering column so I could see exactly where it is, and it figured out that lock to lock, in other words, from one limit to the other limit, it is exactly 2 revolutions. So if I come back from where it is now, 1 full revolution right there.
It's straight.
That should be straight, and it's not. So now what I can do is I can go back under there and we'll do what we did before. I'll loosen the clamp. We'll slide this over so that the motor's straight. And actually it'll be easy to tell when it's straight because we've got this thing right here. Probably has to line up with that line under there. All right.
Sorry if it's getting warm.
Yeah, try not to get me too wet. Hey, 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 hey.
Sorry.
I'm trying to get grease on this, not water.
I'll do it after.
Yeah, I'm almost done. That's the tricky part. Getting this to go back over this thing. Doesn't help that it's been off of there for years and the end of that's rusted. Just did what I was going to try and avoid doing, which is I think I just damaged this thing. That does not seem to me like it's going to want to go back on there. I think it's just not. It's lost all its elasticity and it's kind of like plastic now. Hard plastic. That ain't moving. Nope. But it's going to pop right off as soon as the steering goes the other way. I don't guarantee that. Turn the steering wheel. Staying on a little bit. Alright, go the other way. Alright. Better than nothing, I guess. It would be nice if it went on, because if it clipped onto there, then it wouldn't come off every time the steering tube moves out. Right now, every time the steering tube moves out, it's going to want to go with the steering tube probably. This pops off way too easily, see? What this does is this is supposed to keep water from getting down that tube, but it's just too far gone. It used to be rubbery. Now it's like hard plastic almost, and that's what happens to rubber sometimes when it gets old. It loses its elasticity. So it doesn't want to expand enough to move over this and then snap back down into this groove. There's a groove right there. So it goes over this thick part, and then there's a part inside here that's got a ridge that would snap into that groove, and that's what keeps it from moving off of there when the tube moves in and out. But that doesn't look like that's going to happen. And even if we could get one of these, we can't replace it without taking this end piece off, which I already know from experience that it does not want to come off. Well, we should clean this well out. That's pretty gross. Okay, so got something flat we can use to shovel this out?
A shovel.
Oh, why didn't I think of that?
You said shovel this out, so I just said shovel. You want to rinse it out with the hose?
Not with all this stuff in there.
I know.
Yeah, I have to get the heavy stuff out, because there's a drain hole right there, but the drain hole doesn't work.
You can get your wrist out there.
Can you? Ugh, it's gross. Can't believe you touched that. Ugh, yuck.
What?
Nothing.
Now you can get your wrist out.
Oh, you should work on a farm. Can you hand me the hose, please?
I had to clean up the trailer.
Oh yeah, good time. There we go. Get that big lump of poop out of there. You grabbed everything else with your hand. Now, what are you whipping out now for? Look. Don't collect in here and get stuck again. All right, I think it's clean enough. That's clean enough for a road test.
What are we doing now?
Well, I don't know what we are doing, but you're going to shut the water off.